Here's an interesting new tool received today I've never seen before. Self-adjusting wrench, grabs on and automatically locks on the bolt or nut. Trying to determine the origin. It looks like it could be Serbia, Croatia, that block of countries, but I can't pin down that name with anything in particular. Patented, I guess it's 1932. It has the same thing on the other side. All the chrome finish is rusty and worn. This will have to be restored. Well, I've just acquired this very old and rare wrench. This is actually made by Dudley Manufacturing. I guess they call it a Dudley wrench. A double-ended item, patented in 1901. The nice jaws for pipes, and of course the square jaws, very straight, pretty good condition. For nuts and bolts, it's seized. It's pretty stuck together, so this is going to take some work, and we'll have some fun restoring it. Before the restoration, I decided to do some research on this wrench. First, I thought I mentioned it was somewhere Croatia, Serbia, somewhere in that area. I did that based on the name of the wrench, which is, the best I can figure is cottage, something like that. It's a strange pronunciation. I traced that name down. The only reference, I could not find the name of this company or the manufacturer, anything about it. I tracked it down, and there is a city by that name in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Heard that name sometimes on the news, but really don't know much about the area. Part of the reason is, if you go back to history, the original Soviet Union looked like this. Of course, here's Russia, and then all the different countries that were part of the USSR, quite a group of countries, and they were taken in at various times, most of it after World War II, including West Germany. But in 1992, after the fall of the wall in Berlin, in Germany, these countries were formed again and declared independence. And this area here was where all the red dots are all the countries that were originally, or under the Soviet regime, Yugoslavia. Bosnia and Herzegovina, you see that there. Croatia, Serbia, Macedonia, Kosovo. You hear about these countries from time to time now, but they were all formed in 1992 when they broke away from the Soviet Union, and they were originally Yugoslavia. So within Bosnia and Herzegovina is that country. Why am I here? Well, I couldn't find any history on this wrench, so I decided we'd just relive a little bit of history about the Eastern European countries that were under the Soviet bloc. You can see there were some large countries: Poland, Belarus, Ukraine. You hear that a lot in the news lately. There was no quid pro quo. This is going on and on. It's going to be a topic for a while. But anyway, this little country here, Bosnia, has a city by that name. That's the only reference I can find to this wrench. That name that's on the wrench. Dug into every bit of history I could. Looked all over the Soviet bloc countries, all over Eastern Europe. could not find any reference. So we're just going to go ahead with the restoration and say this is a really rare wrench. The wrench originally had a chromed head on it here, and of course there was a lot of corrosion. The chrome was rusted and corroded away, and the only reference here, it said patented 632, which I assume to mean June of 1932. In which case, that's the earliest reference. Couldn't find the patent, couldn't find the company. So let's proceed and restore this wrench. Interesting little wrench and how it works. We'll show you about that. Here it is with the restoration. I didn't do the real high gloss finish on here. I cleaned it up, cleaned all the corrosion off best I could, had some pitting here. But I felt like it was close to the original look of the wrench as I could get it. And that's what we shoot for, or sometimes we take them over the top. But in this case, this is where I ended up. Now let's talk about how this wrench works. Okay, here's our test block. Let's talk about how you would use this wrench. Looking at the wrench, you think this is the proper position with the jaws facing this way. You go to put it on, but nothing happens. Actually, this is properly used by using it this way. You actually put it onto the nut or bolt and you push against the bottom jaw, and then it grabs and you can turn it. To remove it, you put it on, push against the top jaw, and then you turn it. So you're basically pushing against whatever direction you're turning. If you just put the wrench on and try to use it, it's not going to work. You've got to put it on, push against the bottom jaw, and then it grabs. And it turns it well, but it's a little bit of a tricky way. Again, everything looks backwards from what you're doing. It's a strange wrench from a strange place. We don't know where it is, but interesting design, but an awkward operation. So I can't say it's a very good tool. It'll get the job done, but you've got to use it very awkwardly. Like I said, if you just put it on, nothing's happening. You can move it into position, then you'll eventually get it tightened on there, and you can go. If you happen to put it on the wrong way, then there's just no way to make it work, even if you tighten up the jaw. So you got to use it in the proper position, and remember to tighten up the jaw every time you put it on the nut or bolt. Not a very good happening. So that's this wrench. Here's our next item, the Dudley wrench. A combination wrench for both hex, bolts and nuts, and pipes. A little simpler design from the more complicated ones that were made. This was patented in 1901 by the Dudley Tool Company. And, of course, lots of patina, you can call it. Lots of old finish on here that needs to be improved. So let's go ahead and improve the wrench, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. Here's the finished item. Took it and cleaned it. Just used a natural finish on it. Didn't put any paint on it. Works freely now. Took it apart, cleaned all the inner parts, polished them, and put them back together. This was pitted and scratched some from years of use, but all I did with it was cleaned it and polished it. I didn't put it on a fancy sanding to bring it to a high luster, because it just didn't look like a wrench that just didn't look right with a high luster. It looked like better with just more of a natural finish. And of course I did polish up this part here, and worked smoothly and nicely. Big improvement over the way it was received. I searched and searched to try to find some more information on this company, the Dudley Tool Company. Couldn't find a lot. I found the patent on this item, but most of the references to this company were spoke wrenches. They were evidently a big maker of spoke wrenches starting back in the 1800s, in the 1880s, and evidently that was an item needed for bicycles and later for spoke wheels on motor cars. Interestingly enough, this company did make another move, and they actually made an automobile called the 1914 Dudley Bug Cycle Car. Is this interesting? On both sides of it, there's a belt drive that drives the rear wheel. There's one on each side. And the engine on it was a two-cylinder engine that was air-cooled. Two-cylinder, air-cooled engine with a belt drive. Very interesting design. It was only made for like 1914 and 1915. Didn't really take off and go very well, so it wasn't around very long. The frame on this automobile was ash wood. And then, of course, the nice two-cylinder air-cooled engine and belt drive made this unique, called a cycle car. Well, that's my rare Renches restorations for the day. Didn't learn a lot about the Renches as far as the history, so threw some other history in there, and I hope you enjoyed my sidelines. That's all for now.